contends that the defendant's male dog jumped his fence and got to his female dog, Samantha. His dog ended up not only pregnant, but infected and ruptured and had to have an emergency hysterectomy. He's suing for $596 for vet bills. This is the defendant, Howard Luarca, and his wife, Amparo. He says the plaintiff had been seen going into his backyard looking for his Keeshond Shamu. Since he's got a 6-foot gate and a 9-foot fence, it had to have been the plaintiff who is responsible for letting Shamu out. He's accused of failing to control his dog. What you are witnessing is real. The participants are not actors. They are actual litigants with a case pending in a California municipal court. Both parties have agreed to dismiss their court cases and have their dispute settled here in our forum, the People's Court.
Hello, I'm Doug Llewellyn, and welcome to the People's Court. This is the case of Shamu's Night Out. Now, according to the plaintiff, the defendant's dog had been hanging around his house ever since his dog, Samantha, went into heat. He says the male dog finally got into his yard and mated with his dog before he could get out there to stop him. Well, according to the defendant, it is virtually impossible for his dog, Shamu, to get out of his yard, so he figured the plaintiff let him out. He states there is no proof it was Shamu, who he adds is too old to get a dog pregnant anyway. So the question here is, did the defendant's dog injure the plaintiff's pet? Let's try and find out now as the litigants present their testimony to Judge Wapner.
I know you've been sworn, sir. I have read your complaint. You're claiming that the defendant's dog injured your dog?
Yes, sir.
All right. Your next-door neighbors?
They live about a half a block away.
Oh, half a block away. What kind of dog do you have?
It's a mutt. She's an Afghan poodle mix. Or Airedale poodle, depending on how you
When
look
did
at
this injury take place?
On the 24th of April, 25th of April.
What time?
It was about 8 o'clock in the morning
And where did it take place?
in my backyard.
Were you there?
Yes, sir.
What kind of dog does the defendant have?
It's a small brown dog, brown, gray. According to the animal control officers, it's a Keeshond, but I don't know that much about the dog.
What took place?
I led her into the backyard, and about 15, 20 minutes later, I heard a commotion in the backyard, and I went out, and there was a small brown dog mating with my female. He didn't pay any attention when I yelled at him, so I went and got the hose and sprayed him, and after a few seconds, he decided it wasn't worth the effort. He left, jumped the fence, and left the area. I called the animal control office, told them there was a dog in my yard, and they asked me if I could contain the dog or if the dog was still in the neighborhood. I told them I'd try.
Had you ever seen that brown dog before?
For about a week, he'd been outside the gate at night. Around midnight or so, I'd hear a howling.
Did you know the dog belonged to the defendant?
I thought the dog was a stray. I had no idea where the dog lived.
How did you find out the dog belonged to the defendant?
The animal control officer showed up about 11:30, and he attempted to capture the dog, and the dog got away from him, as it states there. He jumped the fence back out of the yard and fled.
How high is your fence?
It's 42 inches, I believe, 44 inches. Mm-hmm. I have a picture of the gate that the dog jumped over. And at that time, the animal control officer said that he'd try and track the dog down with his truck, and he took off in his vehicle with the dog ahead of him. And I finally I had to get back to work, and as I was going to work, I saw the animal control truck parked up the street the next block over, and when I went up, he said that he had seen the dog go through an open gate into what turned out to be these people's house.
When was the defendant first informed that his dog was in your yard?
I informed their son about it, their person who came to the door. A couple of days later, the dog was outside the gate again at night about midnight and woke us up. So I went, since I knew where the dog lived that time, I went over to their house. The dog ran off. I went over to their house. The gate was open. The dog was inside the gate, and I woke him up, his son. I hadn't met Mr. Luarca at that time. I asked him if that was their dog. He said yes, and I told him that that dog had been at my yard, and I would really appreciate if they'd keep the animal contained because he was starting to drive me, my wife, and the baby nuts with his howling, and the neighbor wasn't too crazy about it either.
Were you home on April 25th, sir? In the
No,
morning?
Your Honor.
You were not?
No, Your
Was
Honor.
anyone at home?
April 25th, I don't believe anybody was home in the morning.
Where do you keep your dog?
Sir, I have a picture here. I keep it on the side and the back of the house. Here's the first picture I'll show you. I have a front gate that is over 8 foot high. I have a second gate at the end of the carport, which is not a 6 foot. It's only 4'4".
Okay.
Here show the pictures. My dog also with the back gate. It's an old dog, 15 years old, and it's a small dog too. The fact is,
You ever seen the dog jump that
no, Your Honor. He never
4-foot
jumped.
gate?
No, he never jumped the fence.
Never.
Never. The dog is only 16 inches tall, so it's a
The dog ever get out?
2 months. Yes, sir. He's
All
got
right.
out about 3 times.
Your Honor?
How does he get out?
Somebody's been leaving the gates open. I've been told by my neighbor to see the
Somebody?
gentleman. Yes, sir.
You mean you think he's opening the gate and letting your dog out?
He's been there that I know 5 times.
Well, he may
checking on
be,
my
but
dog.
you think he's letting your
He's
dog
going
out?
by my backyard. He has gone into my backyard.
Have you gone into his yard?
I've never entered his yard, Your Honor. I've knocked at the front door.
Have you seen him in your yard?
No, sir. No, Your
Now,
Honor.
how do you know that he's been there?
Because my stepson gave me an notarized letter. He had to be at school today for a test, where he see the gentleman trying to get in and opening the gate. Anyway, the fact is that doesn't prove that my dog is the one that got his dog opinion. We've been over his house, my steps. There are always 2 or 3 dogs hanging around there. Like he say, my dog is great. My dog is not great. So all the time he come over and scream at my wife, scream at the kid that my dog is out. We go back
This
there. and my dog
notarized
is there.
statement doesn't say who the man is that let your dog out or if he let the dog out. What are your damages, sir?
Well, there's $591. The vet bills
For what?
were involved. When I took her over the first time for the office visit and a blood test to determine why she was lethargic, she had a temperature, and the second bill was for the emergency hysterectomy when I took her over on the 8 o'clock on the morning of the May the 23rd.
Doctor state why the dog had to have a hysterectomy?
Yeah, there's a letter from the veterinarian here. It states her condition, it states the condition that historically the infection is due to bacteria being introduced into the uterus during breeding. There was never determined whether or not she was pregnant because of the state of the infection. They could only determine that she was diseased. They
You
weren't-
actually saw the 2 dogs that appear to be mating.
Yes, Your Honor, and I have a copy of the Burbank Animal Shelter impound record, and Mr. Luarca's dog has been impounded by the city of Burbank 7 times since 1980 for running loose, and there are 4 warning statements, including the one they issued that day
Let me see it.
for the dog being off the
Have
leash.
you had 7 warnings from the...
It was impounded 7 times.
I don't recall that. The dog belonged to my son since 1980, he said.
That's what it says on that. That's what they told me at the
Going
animal
way
shelter.
back to say with my kids, they always let the dog out and were playing at the parks.
Well, the
And
last one is...
they never been impound this year, Your Honor.
Well, he was impounded for... Well,
On the
got a
front
warning
sheet.
notice on 4/25/86. He said that
The dog was over
the
there.
issuing officer said he chased the dog home.
In the last 2 months, he's been getting out 3 times, Your Honor.
Do you have anything you want to say, ma'am?
Yes. He came and yelling, and screaming that my dog was over to his house, right? I went to the back of my house and found that my dog was at home. That happened.
When was that, ma'am? When was that you're talking about?
Monday.
Which Monday?
Oh, I don't remember because I
Well,
have.
I have to know what Monday you're talking about to find out whether it's relevant to the facts in this case.
No, 3 months ago. 3 months ago.
3 months ago?
Yeah, because I have off, because I have.
So he was
my-
saying that your dog was running around the neighborhood?
What?
What are you telling me about? That he came there on a Monday 3 months ago and said what?
Yeah, he say that my dog was over his home. It's
When?
not true. Monday.
Monday, 3
Monday.
months ago, Your Honor.
3
He
months
claimed that
ago.
my dog was over his house. My wife went and checked out in the backyard, and my dog was there. So he doesn't know my dog.
Take a short recess. I'll come back and give you my decision.
Today on Channel 5 News at 4:30. Alderman Verdoliak now coming under significant pressure from some Democrats. Tim Coleman will have a report. Also today, American mercenary Eugene Hassenfuss back in the United States after his ordeal in Nicaragua. Norman Mark will have his picks for the weekend, and in sports, a Christmas skating party for the Blackhawks, and more on Jim McMahon's visit with Johnny Carson.
Join Ron Majors and the Channel 5 News team today on Channel 5 News at 4:30.
With all you have to do this time of year, relax. Let someone else do the cooking. Kentucky Fried Chicken. And make it easy on yourself. Bring home plenty of delicious Kentucky nuggets when friends drop by. Have a happy holiday with Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Time takes you beyond the news.
Time flies and you are there. Time cries and lets you care. You understand the world we share.
This week in Time, probing the mess. Reagan watches as top aides fuel the Iran scam fire, and America's top spy speaks out. Plus, this year's high-tech toys.
Read Time and understand.
What's new at Jewel this week? Breakfast favorites specially priced. Start your day with sunshine. Save on Minute Maid frozen orange juice, just 89 cents for a 10 to 12 ounce can. Pour yourself a steaming hot cup of Hills Brothers coffee. Tennessee Pride pork side.
You can't allow dogs to roam around at large in a neighborhood. You have to keep them behind your gate. You have to be sure they don't get out. You say the dogs have been out now for the last 2 months. He's been getting out. Plaintiff saw that it was your dog who was mating with his dog. The dog has suffered through this, but what is compensable, the fact that the plaintiff spent money for vet bills and so on, and so therefore he's entitled to be reimbursed for those bills. They amount to $596, so my judgment is for plaintiff for $596.
So Judge Wapner finds for the plaintiff in this dispute for $596. Mr. Lewarka, the defendant in this case, and his wife are just coming out of the courtroom. You're on the hook for the money. What's your reaction to the decision?
I think the bill's too high, ridiculous high, and also I think it improved that was my dog. There are too many dogs. I gave the statement that 2, 3 dogs in his backyard.
In the eyes of the law, or at least in Judge Wapner's opinion, he did prove it. I mean,
he did prove. Well, the judge is a judge. You know, he makes the final decision. Sometimes you lose, sometimes you win. Depends how you get the case.
Well, what are you going to do about your dog? How are you going to keep your dog in control?
My dog have no trouble. It's always under control. But the only thing he keeps saying... He says he's going to shoot and kill.
No,
yes, I'm going to... he came around my property. I'm going to call the police. I'm not going to shoot him and kill him. I don't own a gun. But if he come over my house, I'm going to have him arrested. And I don't have any problem with my neighbors.
Well, the point is, what are you going to do keeping your dog in your yard?
He's inside. He's no problem right now.
Really?
Yeah, he's been there now.
Okay, all right.
He's been there for what, 2 months now? He never got out.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Officer Burrell is waiting for you. The plaintiff is on his way out of the courtroom now. He's still convinced his dog didn't get out. What?
Well, it was his dog I saw in the yard and his dog that was in the act. That's, I don't know how many other dogs were there, but his was the only one I saw.
Okay. Well, are you satisfied with the decision?
Yeah. I got back the damages that were done to my dog, and I feel satisfied with it.
Well, good enough. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Officer Burrell is waiting for you, and that'll bring this case to a close. The litigants for our next case are on their way into the courtroom.